Hello, hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome to the Inkwell Exchange. We are going to have some awesome. We're going to be having a super informal conversation about what it means to write, to be an author, to think through all of the wonderful things that come with being a writer. So stay tuned, and then we will have our guests introduce themselves in just a few seconds. All right, and I think everyone has been invited. Hello, 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 all. How are you? Hi, hi, hi. Great. Okay. I'm so glad you are here. Thank you all for joining us today. I think somebody's got a little bit of a go to mute the computer or iPad. Great. Perfect. Lovely. Thank you guys for coming and visiting with us. I am going to kick it to Quan since you are first on my floor screen. Go ahead and introduce yourself. These people may not know who you are, so go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell them what you've written, what kind of stuff you like to write. We really want to get to know you.
Hello, world. I am Quan L. Jackson. Old author. The I'm a writer of anything to fictional stories. So that's kind of where I am. Eventually, I'll get to the point where I'll start doing novels and.
That sounds really, really good. Quan, you still got a little bit of an echo, so let us know when that is fixed. And Tiffany, if you'll jump in and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi. Can you all hear me? Is there an echo on my part?
Nope, I can hear you just perfectly.
My name is Tiffany Lewis, and I am the author of No More Silence. It is an inspirational memoir. You can hit me up on nomoresilences.com to reach my memoir.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, next on the list is Jazzmyne. Thank you so much for being here. Please tell us a little bit about your work. I believe you're a fellow children's book author, so I feel really good about that. Tell us a little bit.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All good?
Yes.
Awesome. My name is Jazzmyne Townsend. I am a children's book author. My first book was released in January of this year, Hattie Leads the Way. I am a teacher by profession and a creative by passion. So I'm always doing some kind of creative project. And my book was my latest project. So, yeah. Hey, everybody.
I love that. I love that. And for all of those who don't know, I'm Ellisa Brown. I've started this Inkwell Exchange, which will be a weekly panel or sometimes just conversation with authors, aspiring writers, professional writers, to talk about what it's like along the publishing journey. This year, or last year, late, published my book, Meet Cairo. It was an experience, and we'll talk a little bit about the mistakes I made when publishing a little later. But first, I really, really want to throw it to Tiffany to talk to me a little bit about your writing process, about what got you into writing.
My writing process, actually, who inspired me to write, to be honest with you, is my mother. I remember growing up, my mother used to make me write in a journal about my day. It was just as simple as that, just writing in my journal. And hence, just growing up writing in my journal, and then growing up as a adolescent, and then high school, and then college, turned into this memoir, turned into this project that I actually call my baby, that I actually wrote and published in 2021. So my writing process, inspiration was my mother. But how I go about my writing process is just it might be a little bit different than some. I'm not the type of person that sometimes just type on a laptop to write. I actually use my phone the notes, little pad in my phone. So anytime I come up with something, I might in my head or how my day was or what I was experiencing at a certain point of my life, I might jot it down in my phone, and then it'll go to a notepad and then to a laptop. And then obviously to print. So my writing process is just all over the place, but I promise you, it came together in a beautiful, beautiful book. So yeah,
That is so awesome. That's so awesome. I think that's very similar to mine, actually. I'm less of a phone person, but I hate blank pages. So I'm definitely like writing random paragraphs in non-sequential order and then like puzzle piecing them together. Does anybody else have very interesting writing process? I know Quan writes poetry, so that may be also a little different than the rest of us.
Yeah, I take the same approach. I guess that's the beauty of writing, though. You never really know when you're going to come across something that could either inspire or you find admirable, and the work is really our oyster. You have a different perspective. So I have a lot of fishbowl ideas where it could be an end of a poem, it could be an end of a story, or it could be a really, really great line. And the only thing I have to kind of fight on is, do I need to get up and actually write this down, or can I remember it? If it's good enough, I make sure to write it down, and then I fit it whatever type of poem or whatever type of story that I'm writing.
I love that. So Jazzmyne, I know you write children's books, and I think that, from my experience, it's also a little odd, right? Because you have to not dumb down, make your language very simple, which isn't the most intuitive thing for people who write a lot. Like, I love a good run-on sentence. How do you deal with that?
Right. So yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a different process than if I was writing for an adult, to read a story. But because I am a teacher, I'm an educator by profession. So, and I've been in the classroom with preschool, pre-kindergarten, and kindergarten students for the last 14 years. So I've read thousands and thousands of books. So I'm used to, rhyming language in books, alliterative patterns and things like that. So when I started my writing process, I was always thinking with my students in mind, like thinking about, okay, like what kind of language do I need to use in this book that's going to make it accessible for them, that's going to make the text predictable, what kind of, I should use rhyming language because they can kind of fill in those missing parts. So I was always thinking of my students in mind. And the concept behind my story, I felt like my students were not getting enough Black history. And so I wanted to teach them about Harriet Tubman. But obviously, Harriet Tubman is very abstract. The idea of slavery and the Underground Railroad is very abstract for 5-year-olds. So I wanted to kind of, make it relatable and developmentally appropriate for them. So I thought about like, how can I take, such an abstract or, diverse concept and make it appropriate, for children. So again, I just always had to keep my students in mind, like realize that at the end of the day, like a 5-year-old is going to listen to this story, like what's going to make sense for them, like what kind of text and what kind of language is going to be predictable for them to be able to, to jump in and to join the story.
I like that. That's really good. And I think that also ties into all of the different things that can inspire us as authors. Because, for instance, I've learned to really be, and I think as Quan says, you never know what's going to drive that spark. I've had a real affinity to like red trees, shrub type things lately. I think there's just a sense of wonder, especially when it's not fall and you find one. So I love Japanese maples. I think they're gorgeous. Because it looks like they're out of a brand new story, whole new different world, where the trees are red, which is one of the reasons why in Meet Cairo, I made all of the trees red, because I wanted the space to feel close to earth, close to reality, but not quite. And I think a lot of that had to do with, similar to you with the Black history piece and inspiration, I wanted Meet Cairo to have that freedom that I don't think Black children have in current reality, to explore, to get in trouble, to be mischievous, and for that to be okay in that world. And that's not okay in our world, right? There are a lot of other consequences that come with that. And so I think by making it just slightly different, bringing that aspect of wonder, that was a really important piece in my writing. So moving on to what all the people came to hear about, I'm sure, publishing. How do you get from, okay, I've got a manuscript thingamabob here that's got words. I like them. They're in a great order. I've asked a couple of people to maybe edit them. And then I went and published them. So I think we've got kind of a whole bunch of different paths that we could go through on the live. We've got Quan, who's a poet and has published poetry. We've got Tiffany, who has a memoir. So I really want to jump in with a memoir, and I think me and you, Jazz, can close it out with a children's book, because I think even between the two of us, we have very different journeys. And so why don't you start, Tiffany? What was, first of all, what was your path? What made you decide to hit the publish button? And then what kind of process did you go through when you went through that journey?
So, as I mentioned before earlier, this was a baby of mine. So this was something that was just brewing in pages of years of a diary, right, about my life. So it just clicked one day, hey, this is actually my story, something that I feel that is my testimony that I believe a lot of people, men and women, can identify with. And why not write this? Why not publish it in a book? I guess some people could say I cheated. I went the publishing company route instead of self-publishing. Some people go through the self-publishing route, but I was looking for not just any publishing company, but a publishing company that specialized in inspiration books, more Christian type books. So it just happened one Sunday. I was at church and a friend of mine said that she had started a publishing company. And I always knew that she, just by observing her in church, I knew that she was of faith, and I knew that that she lived a life that was exemplified Christ. And so I asked her, hey, can you publish my book? And at that time, she had published about maybe 8 to 10 books at that time. So it was a pretty new publishing company. And she published it for me. And that went kind of like scheduling a lot of writing meetings. And what I mean by that is we kind of came up with a writing plan, when I should be finished with certain chapters. She just kind of helped me put everything together. And then that obviously went from that to the first editing process, which is a group of editors that just kind of look through the raw pages of the book and look through the book to see if there's any grammatical errors or punctuation, things of that nature. Then that went to another group of editors who I would call them, I guess, the organizational editors, where they kind of made the chapters flow. That makes sense?
Yes.
Based on what I wrote. And then after that, it went to the read table. Read table is a group of editors, myself, and we actually read my book from the beginning to the end, just to see if, and that was about maybe 4 hours of just, because can you imagine? And during that time it was during the pandemic. So, everybody was, at home. So we were on Zoom a lot, but that reading table took 4 hours, and we read the book from the beginning to the end, just to make sure that I was okay with how everything was flowing. And if we still saw any kind of grammatical errors or any punctuation errors or anything like that. And then it went through another process of a table reading before it went to print. So it was a lot involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of said it in like a couple of minutes, but it was more detailed than that. But yeah.
I've never heard of a table read for a book, but I'm also, I've only published a children's book. What about you, Quan? How did your process look? I know we've talked offline about me attempting to get my poetry book together and like the art of letting go. Please dive right in. Tell us how did that work for you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm learning a lot too, because myself, I self-published 2 books. I did take a different route from everyone on this panel tonight, which is great because you guys have the opportunity to hear a different side of this. I've been writing since I was 8 years old. My sister, she knew that I was a big writer, so she said, hey, it doesn't make any sense for you to continue to write and not share your work. Write really good stuff. She's always been a really supportive, and she's really been supportive and always kind of pushed me certain things that I said I never would do. So long story short, I'm in the trying to create my first collection book of poems. So I decided, you know what, I want my family to be a part of it. So I decided I'll call a family night and go ahead and have like a little bit of a painting. So we as a family, we wanted to include them as part of the book. And my grandma, she was alive, and she ended up passing away shortly after. You know, I'd done all that grieving and all that good stuff, but from the pain, there was the level of beauty and a level of clarity that let me know that you can't really take your time when it comes to things. If you never really know what's going on, but from that pain, like I said, the company name from it, the title of my first book, which is titled Unfinished Paintings. Here it is. And this is actually the painting that she did, you know. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make sure that her last painting and her first painting is part of my story forever. So I decided to title it Unfinished Paintings, just because you never really know how with the love. So that was a story. I definitely did have test readers. Typically, I always advise people, if they're going to write, you want to make sure self-publishing, that you have test readers, or Microsoft Office function where it'll read everything, so you can hear to sure that you're not having either grammatical mistakes or syntax. Poetry, I'm not really confided by a lot of those rules, but you still want to make sure that everything is spelled the appropriate way. So those things that I did definitely do when I went through that process. I reached out to a friend, Jaquana. She let me know he was doing it through Amazon. So I went through Amazon. I found out how to get my book published through Apple, all those things. I ended up taking them. The Amazon seemed to be the only option that worked best for me as far as volume. So I decided to stick strictly with Amazon. I went through Fiverr as far as getting my umbrella or my market a little bit bigger in South Florida. That was something that was really beneficial, because eventually the book ended up peaking at #1, a new bestseller badge. So I actually made a lot of decisions when it came to releasing, you know, that first book. I would say the only thing that did not pan out, and that I'll say I learned from, was running too many ads that one never really know how to gauge what's effective and what's actually working for you.
That's a really great tip. I think that's awesome. I think one of the things that I know I did, or I wish I had done better, was we released Cairo kind of late. And so originally it was supposed to come out on November 28th, and it didn't come out till December 22nd. And a lot of our marketing plans had been kind of pinned to Christmas. And so when we ended up with that late release, the question was kind of like, it shook me. And because I was so focused on it not being how I wanted it to be, I didn't pivot. I didn't recover as well as I wish I had, to kind of figure out, okay, well, since that's not going to work, how are we going to still hit the ground running? And I had vacation planned. And so really Cairo sat like unpromoted until the beginning of January. And I really wish I had done something different. I think we made a nice recovery come Black History Month, but that still, you never kind of get back that launch fire. So completely understand that. Now, into the children's book realm, there's one huge thing that I know me and Jazzmyne have that nobody else really had, the illustration process, right? So Jazzmyne, why don't you conquer that? How did yours go?
So the illustration process was really was a lot of fun for me. I'm definitely not an illustrator at all. I can sketch a few things, I can draw a little bit, but I definitely was not able to illustrate the book myself. I actually work with a young woman. Her name is Jazzmyne Mills. She's based in Richmond, Virginia. But I did initially find her through the Fiverr website. But before I even found the illustrator, it was really, really important to me that I worked with someone, number one, who was African American. Number two, it would make it even better that she was female, because I really wanted to make sure that whoever illustrated this story understood like the importance of this story and was really able to bring the character to life. Like I said, I am a teacher by profession, so I understand that, kids, even if they can't read the words, the students are able to make meaning by looking at the pictures in the story. So just as important as the words are, the pictures had to be equally as important. And so that writing process, how it initially worked, I went through, after I had my manuscript, went through each part of the manuscript, and I gave detailed descriptions of kind of like what I could visualize and what I saw in my head, down to the details in the character, like, Hattie's earrings and the barrettes that she has in her hairs and the star pattern that's on her clothes, like how to become very, very specific about, how I imagined it, just providing her with as much information as possible. And then we went back and forth through some passages. She did some sketches, just black and white sketches at first. And I was in love when I saw the black and white sketches. I'm like, okay, like she gets the vision. This is, it's coming to life. So we did that. We went through just some process of adding more details or just doing some revisions, but just making sure that I could then match up, all the words, all the text, to go with those illustrations. And for the most part, it was a fairly smooth process. Like I said, it was just really important to me from the jump that I worked with someone who really understood like why this story was important and that they were, committed to making sure they could bring it to life.
Oh, I completely agree. One of the big things that I was really proud of about Cairo, we had a Black publisher, there was a Black author, me, and then a Black illustrator, my illustrator, Tom Benedict. He was amazing. He really brought both Lily Bell, who is Cairo's sidekick, and Cairo to life. Cairo, for me, was a huge non-starter with a lot of the illustrators that we saw, because Cairo's a real dog. So they had the really hard job of like, my dog is adorable, and the sketch and the illustration of her as a result needed to be like cuteness bottled, like almost to a dying degree, right? Like you should have been so shocked at her cuteness that you just like fell out on the floor. And that was what was really important to me. But yeah, so I also did the illustration process. I did not self-publish. I went through a publisher. So I had a very similar kind of step-by-step walkthrough, couple of edits. I think I wish I had done test readers like Quan did, because there were a couple of things after it came out that I was like, I wish I had done those slightly different. I had a couple. The other thing I definitely wish I had done was and my publisher suggested this, and just the timing, again, I told you that struggle to recover from the book not coming out exactly when I wanted it, was that we were supposed to have a launch party where we brought in about 200 people onto a Zoom, and we all bought the book at the same time to push the Amazon algorithm to push it to the top. And I didn't actually do that. I still have yet to do that. And it is one of the things that I highly suggest to anybody who asks me about publishing a book. It's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense. It is the smartest thing you can do, especially if your network is pretty large. But I have taken up enough of your time, and I've taken up enough of our viewers' time, and I want to thank everyone so much for coming on, for viewing it, getting a couple of tips and tricks. I hope they helped you in some way. Please come back to the Inkwell Exchange. We will probably have some of these beautiful people on, hopefully again, at some point, but also we'll be tackling a lot of different subjects. We will be talking about the hard things that come with trauma writing. Later this month, we'll also be tackling things like outside of publishing, what are other tips and tricks that go along with actually getting the book finished. So stay with us, follow me, put on your notifications. We'll be here every week. We alternate Fridays and Saturdays. So if you're not available Friday evenings because you're a party person, completely understand. Check us out next week on a Saturday morning. Before I end it, I think a really important part of the Inkwell Exchange is that we support each other and that this whole thing is reciprocal. So I'm going to pass it to each of our panelists for what we're going to call our quick fire action items. They're going to tell you how you can support them in just really quick ways. Of course, all of this will be repeated when I do like our closing and reposts and all of that wonderful stuff, but I'm going to pass it to them right now. Go ahead, quick fire action items. What would you like from our viewers?
Well, you can find me on Amazon, No More Silence. On Amazon, you can just type No More Silence in the search bar and Tiffany Lewis, or my website, No More Silences with an S at the end.com. I'm also on IG, No More Silence IG, and No More Silence Facebook. Get with your girl. It's good, I promise you, it's good.
Awesome. You can also find my book, Hattie Leads the Way, on Instagram, as well as Barnes & Noble, as well as my website, HattieLeadsTheWay.com. You're going to find me as well as my social handles, Hattie Leads the Way. If you are in the DC area, DMV area tomorrow, I will actually be vending and sharing live during story time at Metro Bar DC. That'll be from 12 to 5 tomorrow. So if you're in the area, definitely please come on out and stop by. And along with supporting me and the other authors here, like read for yourself, read to children. Reading unlocks the world. So please take time, find a book, dive in, share, make the joy of reading come alive for children and yourself.
And Quan L. Jackson, that's going to be my everything. Facebook, Instagram, the website, written. Just like the, that's here. So Well Written Productions, or wellwritten.com is my website. Below on that website, you're going to have all social media and subscribe. I do create videos to go with some of my poetry. It also has a lot of what's going on in my life as a person who is a spoken word performer and artist. That stuff is going to be available to my
Perfect. Thank you all so much. I will end with my own quick fire action item. Please, please, please join our community. We have a group on Facebook called the Inkwell Exchange. It's a super nurturing, super supportive writers community. We want you to be a part of it. You get to interact with awesome authors like this that are a part of the Inkwell Exchange. We'll be doing writing prompts, we'll have polls, we have chats where you can ask questions about publishing. We have chats where you can promote your book, you can promote your events. So we want to see you there. The link is in my bio. Please go on over, request to join. I promise you, we'll get you in very, very quickly. We want to support you on your writing journey. That's what this whole community is about. That's my mission. So stay with us. Get these books. They're great. These authors are awesome. And we can't wait to see everyone next week, Saturday at 11:15 a.m. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.